Hey guys, Neo here. This week on Learn to Play we're going to be looking at the Midrange Elemental Shaman. In this video I'm going to talk about the strategy, the mulligans, the combos, and then we'll play a few example games so you can see the deck in action. For this deck we have a couple of basic strategies depending on whether you're playing against aggro decks or slower style decks. Against aggro style decks, it's all about keeping control of the board, so keeping the board clear. Even if you take some face damage, that's okay. Obviously, don't do crazy stuff like trading into a minion that does 6 damage and, with your face with a weapon or something like that. That's pretty bad. But early game trading to take out a couple of, 1 or 2, even 3 attack minions is not too bad. Obviously, try and minimize the damage as much as possible. As the game goes on, you build up stronger and stronger minions. If you keep control of the board, you'll quite easily overwhelm an aggro deck. Now we have a couple of taunt cards in this deck which are really good, being the Tar Creeper and the Hot Spring Guardian. So they're really useful, especially the Guardian because you can actually heal yourself, so that's really good against aggro decks. Now against slower style decks, it's still about kind of keeping control of the board, but you can play a bit more aggressively and you can maybe focus on value trades rather than just keeping the board clear. And yeah, in some cases you want to be very aggressive depending on the style of decks you're playing against. So you want to play some early game cheap minions and combo them with the Flame Tongue Totem to hit some serious face damage, or even trade into bigger minions for really good value. Here's my version of the Midrange Elemental Shaman I've been running with. This is a very stock standard version of the deck. Yeah, if you Google this, you'll pretty much find this deck. So there are a few different variations that are popping up recently. There are quite a few versions of the deck that aren't running the Blood Cell Corsair and Patches, for example, and they'll be dropping in Devolve, Volcano, and there are even versions of the deck that are running some Death Rattle minions and N'Zoth, which is pretty cool as well. So I'd have a bit of a Google and try the different variations. Obviously, they work better in different situations, so it depends what you're coming up against on the ladder or what you want to get out of it in your tournament lineup. Now let's go and take a look at some of the combos and important cards in the deck. I'm going to start by talking about the Flame Tongue Totem. So give adjacent minions +2 attack. This has been a very popular card in various Shaman decks for a very long time now. This works really well in this deck because you have these low cost minions that have 1 attack, 2 health, 1 attack, 1 health, that kind of stuff. And you can use that early game. Depending on whether you're playing as aggro or slower style decks, you can either trade that into really expensive minions and get huge value out of Patches, for example, or you can hit them in the face for a huge amount of damage. It's a very, very strong card. And I mean, if you're playing against aggro style decks and you drop this as well, it effectively acts as a taunt because your opponent's going to trade to take that out because it's too much damage that we're leaving on the board. In this deck we have a few cards as well which will summon Jade Golems. So we have the Jade Claws, which is a really high value card at the moment. For 2 mana you summon a Jade Golem, plus you have a 2/2 weapon, which is really good early in the game, especially against aggro style decks. It's really good at trading up against those cheap minions. We then have the Jade Lightning, which is also another really good card for taking out some of the early to mid game minions. Against aggro decks, for example, it's good against taking out the Frothing Berserker and other kind of 3-4 health minions. And it also summons the Jade Golem. And then of course with pretty much every Jade deck we have Eye of Blackpaw, because the Battlecry and Death Rattle are summoned at Jade Golem, so it introduces huge value there. Since this deck is actually called the Midrange Elemental Shaman deck, it's no surprise we have some elemental cards in the deck. So here we have 3 cards which rely on you playing elemental cards on your previous turn for their battle cries to take effect. So we have the Stone Shaper. If its battle cry is essentially if you played an elemental last turn, gain Taunt and Divine Shield. So that adds a lot of value to that card. We have the Servant of Kalamos, which is if you play an elemental last turn, discover an elemental, once again, huge value gain. And then we have Blaze Caller, which is really cool. If you played an elemental last turn, deal 5 damage. So that's really good for taking out some pretty significant minions, or dealing some serious face damage. And at 7 mana, 6/6 with that battle cry is really good. So obviously, just a note, if you think you're playing one of these 3 cards soon, you should obviously make sure you've got an elemental to play on the turn beforehand. So those Fireflies, that's why they're in this deck, because they're really good, because they are an elemental and they give you another 1-cost elemental in your hand, which you can save for later in the game to play before you play these more expensive elementals to get the benefit from their battle cries. Finally, we have Kalamos, the Primal Lord. The battle cry for this is, if you play an elemental last turn, cast Elemental Invocation. So this spell basically gives you the option of 4 different spells. And they are heal for 12 health, deal 3 damage to all enemy minions, fill your board with 1/1 minions, or deal 6 damage to the enemy hero. This is really valuable because it gives you the option of picking, you know, the best power to use in the situation. So against aggro style decks, perhaps you need to heal yourself with 12 health because you're, you know, getting later into the game and you're very close to death. If you get that 12 health heal off, they will be stuffed. Your opponent might have a board full of some cheapish minions and you can deal 3 damage to all of them, which is really good. Or you might be going against the slower style deck and you want to deal the 6 damage to the face and, you know, finish them off. So once again, I just want to reiterate that the real value of this card is that you get to pick depending on the situation you're in. Now let's go and have a look at the mulligans for this deck. Here we have the mulligans you want to be going for against aggro style decks. So first of all, we have the Firefly card. This is a really great value 1-drop as it gives you a 1/2 body, and it also gives you another 1/2 body in your hand, which you can play for 1 mana the following turn or same turn depending on when you play it. The real value comes because it has 2 health, so it can trade in quite nicely against turn 1 minions that your opponent might be playing in aggro style decks, including patches. Now, it can also be comboed really well with the Flame Tongue Totem, as I mentioned earlier, to increase its value significantly and make some, you know, more valuable trades. Next, we have the Bloodsail Corsair. This works really well because you basically want to play it to summon patches, essentially. I mean, the minion itself is fairly solid, but the other value that comes from it too is if you're playing against a deck that uses weapons, once again, such as Pyro Warrior, you can kill their weapon off or at least take one durability off it, which is really good. Then we have the Jade Claws. So this is a very, very good weapon for early game minion removal. 2 damage, you get 2 attacks out of it, so you should hopefully be able to kill 2 early game minions against aggro style decks. As I mentioned earlier, it's fine to take some face damage against aggro style decks. It's all about keeping the board clear. That's what's most important. Obviously, don't hit into minions that have like 5 attack or something and take 5 face damage. That's a bit absurd, but you know, anything 2, maybe even 3 damage is okay. Also, I mean, it summons you a Jade Golem as well, which is another minion you can use to trade into, the cheaper early game minions. And then depending on if you're playing in certain style decks, the Maelstrom Portal works really well. It can clear out a heap of 1 health minions, but if you combo that with a Spell Power Totem, if you're lucky enough to get one, or Blood Mage Thalnos, that can be really good as well. So you can do 2 damage to a heap of minions, and against aggro style decks, if you're dealing a 2 damage AoE, you're going to probably kill a couple of minions there pretty easily. On top of that summons another minion as well. So yeah, who knows, that could get you something else useful. At least gives you another body to trade. Now we come to the Tar Creeper. So this is probably currently one of the best anti-aggro cards in the game. I mean, essentially, on your opponent's turn, it's a 3/5 with Taunt. It's going to cost them to have to get rid of that, so really valuable card. We also have the Hot Spring Guardian. So if you don't pick up Tar Creeper, this is worth holding on to because it has a Taunt. It's not as good as Tar Creeper, but on the plus side against aggro decks, it does give you a bit of a heal, which is quite nice. And then finally, we have the Flame Tongue Totem. So only hold on to this if you have at least another 1-drop in your hand so that you can combo with nicely. If you haven't got anything to play turn 1, drop this and definitely go for a Firefly. These are the mulligans you want to be going for against slower style decks. So basically, these are all similar mulligans to what you want against aggro decks, except there's less of them. So we want the Firefly because it's just a huge value turn 1 play once again and can be comboed with the Flame Tongue Totem for really good value, as I mentioned earlier. In this case, it's pretty good because you can play it, combo it with the Flame Tongue Totem and, you know, trade into like a really, really high health minion if you get the opportunity early on. And then once again, we have the Bloodsail Corsair. Basically, we just want to play this to summon patches, get it out of your deck so you can kind of draw into some better stuff. It's still a pretty good early game play because once, like the Firefly, it gives you something that you can buff with the Flame Tongue Totem, and it gives you patches as well, so you can buff both of those. And you know, potentially your opponent might play a big minion. You have nothing on the board. You can play the Bloodsail Corsair, get your patches up, put down a Flame Tongue Totem and trade into it with patches pretty cleanly, depending on what it is. As I've just been saying, Flame Tongue Totem, this is a really good card against aggro, against slower style decks. It's probably the best pick. It gives you huge value trades, as I just mentioned, or you can push aggressive face damage, which is really important in a lot of matchups because you're kind of racing against the clock. If you get to end game against certain decks, you can end up in a lot of trouble. And then finally we have the Tar Creeper. This is still a good taunt minion to avoid taking a bit of face damage. It's just a really good value 3-drop, to be honest. I think I've spoken enough about this deck, so let's go and play some example games now. Okay, we're playing against a Warlock. We're gonna draw patches. Firefly is good. Maelstrom Portal. Warlock doesn't really have too many small minions, so I'm gonna drop that as well, actually. Not a perfect starting hand, but at least we have the Firefly. And we can always have a totem turn if we have to. We have some options. That was a nice top deck. Get rid of that before he buffs it too much. Yeah, so we just need to really make sure we keep control of the board here. Just playing a fairly aggressive style deck by the looks of it. Playing a Murloc Tidecaller. Okay. So we're in a pretty good place. I think I'm going to totem at this point. Nice, a taunt, that's pretty cool. And the next turn we can conceive playing some sort of elemental so we can play the Servant next the following turn. Yeah, so I think we go elemental into totem. Interestingly enough, this is the perfect spot for Maelstrom Portal though. We have to play that. I mean, do we... Thanos, there's no point. I'm just gonna clear it all anyway. May as well totem. We're not gonna play anything else. The value from that was too good. I mean, unfortunately now we have to play another elemental before we can use anything. I could be looking pretty good next turn. Generate pretty good value. Unless of course I get a Flame Tongue Totem or an elemental. I'd be pretty tempted to play an elemental so we can chain into... well, we could actually play Blaze Caller if we needed to. Yeah, he's thinking hard. Well, it's certainly taking a long time to decide on a move. Don't tell me he went all in on his last play and that Maelstrom Portal just screwed him over completely. Okay. Keep holding onto that weapon for later. Yeah, I reckon he's rage quit. Yeah. Maelstrom Portal rage quit. Okay, we're playing as Rogue, so I assume fairly aggressive. Bloodcell Corsair is good, Jade Claws is good, Flame Tongue Totem is good. We'd like a Firefly, but I'm not going to be picky. That's a good start. We're in the situation where we can either play the Bloodcell Corsair right now, or we can wait for a weapon. Just trying to think. Probably playing the Corsair now is the right thing to do. Gives us patches out early. It might force him to coin into his weapon, which is kind of a good waste of his coin. Okay, he's going to do that, which is even better, because now he can be super aggressive. Oh, we have 2 Flame Tongue Totems. Since we have to kill him pretty quickly before he quests. He's in a little bit of trouble here, because, I mean, he can weapon and kill patches, but there's still 3 face damage, and yeah. Yeah, helps if I wait till I can attack with it. Wow. A few turns in, he's down to half health already. Oh. That's unfortunate for him. It's pretty nice. Gives us a taunt. He's in a lot of trouble. He's nowhere near completing quests. Yeah, I don't see him recovering from this. Yeah. Okay, playing as another shaman. We'll hold on to that Maelstrom Portal. We can combat with Totem or Thelmos fairly nicely. Not the best starting hand. But we have Firefly and Portal at least, so it's not too bad. And that is also very nice. Okay, so our hands picked up a little bit. Yeah, I'm actually not going to play Totem right now. That was kind of good. I'm scared if I play Flame Tongue Totem, he'll just take it out, so it's kind of be nice to get a couple more minions on the board. Or the extra minion. So I can get a little bit more value out of that Totem. Unless he does that, of course. I'm actually going to play the Taunt. Makes it a little bit annoying. I mean, he might have a Jade Lightning. Well, actually, he doesn't. Doesn't have enough mana. He can't do that. Makes an awkward play for him, which is good. Okay, maybe not then. Well, that's kind of nice. We can Flame Tongue Totem the Stealth. This is really just a battle of board control. Is he gonna trade into the totem? He didn't. Nice. Okay, that's really good. I'm actually going to put the extra value on the taunt and not that because it doesn't have much health. And the totem heals itself back up nicely. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of you. Rid of you. And then let's get a extra value out of that. What do we want? Oh, Alakir. Reduce elemental cost. No, Alakir is too good. We can play that with a Flame Tongue Totem and smashed. Oh, that healing totem. Looking pretty reasonable right now. We have a pretty good card advantage. Getting that stealth minion was really good. Couldn't get rid of it. Well, if he had a Maelstrom portal he could have, but he used it already. Oh wow. Pretty much Blaze Caller into one of those. Actually, put it on this end. Yeah, nice. Okay, playing against a Shaman again. Ah, cool. Okay, so. Oh, Maelstrom Portal, that's pretty good hand. The only other card I'd want would be Firefly, but we're looking pretty good. Maybe Jade Claws, actually. Yeah, I'm actually not going to do anything. I can combo with that Corsair with Flame Tongue Totem quite happily a little bit later. There's a Hex, which is nice. And essentially, depending on what he plays, we might be able to Maelstrom Portal and use that minion to trade into that taunt. Okay, so that's no good. No choice but to do that. Unfortunately, he'll probably Maelstrom Portal, or he could, even worse, Jade Lightning and Totem. Flame Tongue Totem, of course. Fairly happy with that. Pushed a heap of face damage. Unfortunately, he's got another Taunt Minion now in his hand. But we can Hex and keep pushing face damage if we want. Yeah, that one's pretty annoying. I think I'm going to do that. Push that face damage. Let's just go another Totem. Pretty nice face damage we've done so far. And we can Fire Elemental into face next turn as well. Oh yes, there's IR. Damn, I wish I had Hex right now. Probably have Hex. Play pretty aggressively. That lets us use 7 to kill us next turn. The Blaze Caller would be really nice. Or no, Fire Elemental. Blaze Caller optimal though. Wow, Taunt Minion. Really? You gonna leave my... Okay. Oh, patches. Okay, push some more face damage. That got him to trade into it that time. Get some more value out there. Hopefully he doesn't have another Hex in his hand. Be pretty crazy if he had a Hex Vial. Oh, that's, yeah. Yeah, Rise of the Chained. Well, my hero power should cost 0 now, come on. It's a tough call right now. No, let's put a big body on the board. We're gonna have to do something about. Taunt is nice. Yeah, no point murdering that wisp for nothing. Well played. I'll trade his weapon in now. You can trade that taunt into Mr. Unchained. I committed to a big bunch of face damage there. Okay. Don't need much damage to finish him off, that's for sure. Now, what I need to do is I need to play an elemental to make sure we're covered in case we draw Calamos, or Blazecaller, of course. So we can finish him off. Okay. Yeah, so many taunts. We really just need... That's actually really nice. That clears out a lot of stuff. Oh, that is a really good trade. We just got the... let's play you. Let's buff with heal with that because that's an elemental. Good luck to him, basically, at this point. Yeah, well, that's a pretty good play. Let's put a bunch of taunt minions up. Yeah. Yeah, we can't get past that taunt at this stage. So trade into that, get another taunt up, totem. Let's get Thalnos up anyway. So if he kills it, we get some card draw and get one of our answers. I mean, we've really... Hex actually be quite good. We've got quite a few cards we can draw that would end the game. Wow. I don't know, I don't see those being very good trades. Wow, patches. Ooh. Why didn't... I don't know, I don't understand why he didn't do that then, Bloodlust. Anyway, smashed. That's the end of my example games for this video, guys. So they went pretty well. In the first game we played against the Warlock, and basically he rage quit after we Maelstrom portaled his 1/1 minions, which was awesome. It's always entertaining to make someone rage quit, which was good. Against the Questing Rogue, we went really well because that's actually an unfavored matchup usually. But we did well because we got a couple of cheap minions onto the board and buffed them with those Flame Tongue totems and punished that guy really hard for not basically using his weapon on turn 1 to trade into that minion. Then the first game we played against the Shaman, similar strategy to the Paladin. We kept control of the board, dictated the trade, slowly ground him down, and won pretty easily once again. Now the final game against the Shaman, we went with the other strategy due to the cards we had at the start. We went much more aggressive. We dealt quite a lot of face damage early on. He healed twice, but we dealt too much damage, and he actually made a good recovery in that game until we got towards the end where I got that buffed Maelstrom portal, basically cleared his board, and then we got him pretty low and we were just hanging out to get that extra 5 damage in the end from the Blaze Caller to the face, and GG. Just a few more thoughts before I wrap up this video. So this deck is not a top tier deck, it's a tier 2 deck, so it's still pretty strong. You'll find it's used in quite a few players' tournament lineups if you watch any of the Hearthstone Pro players. So yeah, definitely use it for a tournament lineup, give it a go. You want it for specific matchups. It has some bad matchups such as the Mages, the Quest Rogue, although in this video I smashed the Quest Rogue, which was nice. It has problems with the Quest Warrior. But most of the other matchups, it's pretty evenly matched or favored, so it's quite a solid deck. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there's a few different flavors of this. There's a couple of new flavors at the moment, and those Shamans we played against were actually running different versions to myself. So I would highly recommend trying those out as well. It just depends on the kind of decks you're playing against on the ladder, or the kind of decks you're aiming to counter with your tournament lineup. So that's the end of my video now, guys. If you enjoyed it, please drop me a like, subscribe, check out some of the other videos on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, comment, that would be great. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Until next time, farewell.